Alright guys, today we've got a video here from Zagari Gaming. Make sure you're giving him a sub. This is the evolution of Resident Evil games. So let's take a great trip down memory lane today and have a look. Obviously, this is where it all began. I don't need to talk about this too much. Anyone that knows me knows how much I love the original Resident Evil. The first time many of us experienced a jump scare, and just such a special memory. That Spencer Mansion was something else. What we got now? We have Resident Evil 2. I mean, double trouble, right? Because you got two adventures this time. Not only did you get a Leon adventure and a Claire adventure, which would intertwine into the one story, which at the time in 1998 was very clever, but you also got Scenario B, which was part 2 and changed everything up again. Such a wonderful survival horror experience, and Leon, one of my favorite characters in the franchise, and introduces us to the rookie cop. And he's one of the most interesting characters in the franchise, actually. He has such a growth arc, I feel. Now we got Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Man, the feeling of dread. This is the first time I played a Resident Evil and kind of felt like I didn't have a second to breathe and catch my breath. Because sometimes, sure, you could clear a room out of zombies, and then all of a sudden, Nemi just pops up out of nowhere. And it's just the sense of dread and the constant feeling of being stalked in this was absolutely unbelievable. Some of the puzzles, like the water puzzle and stuff, was really difficult, albeit annoying. But the pros definitely outweigh the cons. Plus, you had the awesome Mercenaries mode as well. For the record, I'm surprised they're not mentioning Director's Cut. I guess they're just adding that as an extension as the original Resident Evil. Fair enough. This is Resident Evil Survivor. A lot of people didn't like this. It's a very, very bad game that I actually like. If you're lucky enough to have the PAL version, you could use the PlayStation G-Con and actually play this with a gun, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, look, you know what? It's a first-person shooter, first Resident Evil game, I think, without pre-rendered backgrounds. I'll let you be the judge. Now we got Code Veronica. Look, you know what? So many people love this game, and I keep trying to push and learn this game and enjoy it as much as I can, but just the difficulty along with the puzzles, it just feels more frustrating than fun to me, Code Veronica. If I want to experience the story of Code Veronica, I usually play this in the Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles rail shooter, which you can experience it in a more action-based way. Yeah, people are going to hate me. I don't really like Code Veronica. I've tried to like it, can't stand it. But definitely a big step up graphically. I did own this on the Dreamcast, so I was like, wow, there you go. Resident Evil's evolving here, so nice looking game for sure, no denying that. Didn't need the pre-rendered backgrounds anymore. What do we got this time? So yeah, we've got Resident Evil Survivor 2. I recently sold my copy of this. Pretty rare PAL-only game. Kind of plays a bit more like an on-the-rails arcade shooter. Kind of like, sort of like Time Crisis, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But it's kind of like halfway between sort of like an action game controls and a rail shooter controls. It's a really weird. But if you can get past that, it's, again, another fun, terrible game. Probably just as bad as the first, if not worse. But I'd be lying if I said I never had any fun playing this. I've put it on the channel before. Again, another way to experience Code Veronica, just play Code Veronica. I mean, you can see for yourself that there's no hiding the footage here. What do we got now? We have Resident Evil Gaiden. So this is like 8-bit Resident Evil on Game Boy Color, which kind of has sort of like map elements where you're running around this area, and then the combat sequences are kind of like turn-based RPG from the first person, so to speak, as you can see here. Nice touch. Do I think this holds up compared to a lot of other Resident Evil games? Probably not. But way to be innovative on a handheld console without a lot of power. At least those who owned a Game Boy Color could still play a Resident Evil game. Nothing wrong with that. What do we got now? Resident Evil Remake. I really want to like this, and there is a lot that I love about this. The better acting, because oh my god, it was so bad in the first one. The graphics are improved. The sound is improved. Again, same issues that I kind of had with Code Veronica. I felt the difficulty was very hard for me, as well as the puzzles were quite sophisticated, I felt. And not mention, I think the thing that irritated me the most about their Resident Evil 1 remake is I was spending more time in the storage room than actually playing the game. Again, these could be my own personal shortcomings. A game that I really want to love, but just didn't enjoy, unfortunately. Most people consider this one of the better Resident Evil games, and so the problem could be me, as I said. Now, what do we got now? We got Resident Evil 0. So this is kind of like a prequel to everything with Rebecca and what's his name. I don't know too much about the storyline of this. I did try it. I didn't like how you had to tag team between characters in the beginning to solve puzzles. And then the very limited inventory space in this. I kind of got bored and moved on. I have played through all of this in the Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. But it's been so long, I'll have to go back and enjoy the story again. But now we got Resident Evil Dead Aim. We're sort of going into the spin-offs now. This was okay. You could play this with a controller or the gun, as far as I know. I never played with a PlayStation 2 gun. Felt like it was a little bit confusing to get around because all the environments kind of look pretty similar to one another, but good for a short amount of time. Now we got Resident Evil The Missions. Which one was this on? I don't think I remember this. Yeah, that looks interesting. What was that on, guys? Let me know in the chat. Now we got the Resident Evil Outbreak file. It's a pretty cool package because it kind of explores, I guess you could say, the backstories of like the more secondary characters in the franchise, which is a really, really neat idea. Goes back to classic locations from the franchise. Didn't really enjoy the load times, if I'm going to be honest. What do we got now? Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. I mean, hey, look, more of the same. It just comes down to the fact that which one did you enjoy the most? I mean, which locations were your favorite in Resident Evil? Being that these were made in 2003, 2004, we hadn't had a whole bunch of Resident Evil games yet. So you're revisiting the classics, and that's quite fun. Look at that. Look at Blondie here. She's handling a shotgun A-OK. Damn, what's this elephant sunbish? Umbrella got to an elephant as well, or no? And now we got Resident Evil 4. Look, jeez. I mean, this is when Resident Evil started evolving a little bit more from a survival horror experience to a more action experience. This game is fantastic. However, I do prefer the remake. With that being said, this was just another level up. And, you know, even though it was a bit more of an action game, it still had some horror element to it. Like, especially, like, all these villages are very creepy. The sense of being overwhelmed is pretty nuts. A sophisticated storyline. Ashley's pretty freaking annoying. But the positives definitely outweigh the good. For a lot of people, this is the most popular, or the, I guess you could say, their favorite Resident Evil game, or at least in their top 3 anyway, so... Still holds up graphically even without the remake, honestly. And in VR now, too. Now we got Resident Evil Deadly Sights. Was this the remake at #1 on the 3DS? Oh, no, DS. This is going back to actually DS. I'm amazed that this actually runs on the DS. That's impressive. I've never played the DS version. Let me know if it's worth a try. It looks alright. Now we got Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. So, the Umbrella Chronicles were like Resident Evil games as an on-the-rail shooter on Wii, Xbox, and PlayStation 3. And so you had Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1, and Resident Evil 3 as an on-the-rail shooter. It's a wonderful way to experience a game if all you want to do is shoot zombies and not worry about sophisticated puzzles. I think it's fantastic. As I said, I didn't really play the Resident Evil 0 story arc too much because I didn't connect with it, but I played a lot of Resident Evil 1 and 3 in Umbrella Chronicles, and it's a really good time to see the old classic locations in 3D without being pre-rendered, so that's kind of a treat too. Definitely worth a shot if you've never played this before.
What is that thing?
Lots of cool weaponry. It's also got roguelike elements too, when you can level up your guns with currency that you earn through subsequent playthroughs. So the more you play, the stronger you get. So there are roguelike elements to this as well. And what do we got now? Resident Evil Genesis. So this looks like another... I want to know what this is on. Is this a fan-made game? Or is this a legit release? Because this kind of looks like an isometric reimagining of Resident Evil 1. And it looks fantastic, to be honest. Let me know where I can get a copy of this. I would love... If you could tell me where to get this, I will try it. It looks incredible. Now what do we got? Resident Evil 5. Probably one of my least favorite entries in the mainline series. Look, it's a fun action game. Just didn't really feel Resident Evil-y. Everyone knocks on 6, but I feel like this feels less Resident Evil-y than what number 6 is. However, I'm going to be playing this one again very soon. I feel like it starts off pretty dramatic in the beginning when you're surrounded by zombies like there's no escape, and then gradually as you get further in the game in different sections, I wouldn't go as far as to say, so it kind of has, I don't know. Look, you know what? I'm not going to try to over-articulate myself, but as a Resident Evil experience, I just felt like number 5 felt a little bit off for me. That's not to say that there's not parts of the game to enjoy, and I'm going to revisit this one pretty soon with my friend Josh. So there we go, 2009. They did a big ad campaign in Australia for that game. And so now we got the Dark Side Chronicles, probably... honestly, my favorite out of the rail shooters. As I said, Umbrella Chronicles follows Resident Evil 0, 1, and 3. This follows Resident Evil 2, Code Veronica, and another set of adventures. What's it called? Were you with Kaiser and stuff? And I've forgotten what they're called off the top of my head. But it's so much fun, in particular, revisiting Raccoon City Police Department and Resident Evil 2. And doing all that in 3D. It's just such a surreal, intense experience. Yeah, love Dark Side Chronicles. One of the better Resident Evil games, in my opinion, that most people haven't played. Treat yourself and play this with the Wii gun, because I'm sure most people don't have the PlayStation Move control, so connect up your Wii gun or the Wii remote, play this for a bit more of an immersive experience that way, for sure. They don't go over the top with the quick time events either. I think they work on that game. Now we got Resident Evil Mercenaries on 3DS. I think I did hear about this one. I don't know if this was any good. You let me know. I mean, playing Mercenaries is always, generally speaking, a pretty good time. I don't know how much of a downgrade in graphical quality and resolution the 3DS would be in regards to playing Mercenaries. I mean, it kind of looks okay. Let me know. And what do we got? Resident Evil Revelations. I quite like Revelations. Look, she's using a custom outfit. I didn't realize you could put that outfit on. She thinks she Kairi Sane there, Pirate Princess. But no, this is great. I love Revelations 1 because the story mixes elements of survival horror and action and intertwines them level by level and gives you a little bit of a variety, basically, on this big haunted cruise ship, so to speak. And there's also this I guess, colony on the water, this new city that's been built that's also been destroyed. And I won't go fully into the lore of this one, but it's a cool experience. You get to revisit characters like Jill Valentine again, which is pretty neat. I think this is one of the last times we saw her, actually, outside a remake. Yeah, a fun Resident Evil game. Really loved Revelations. You see, I really hope they would remaster the graphics for modern consoles, because this is kind of like a port of the 3DS game. Definitely one of the better looking 3DS games. But most of them didn't handle the 3D the way this one did, so it's a nice looking game. Now what do we got? We got Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. So essentially, I think you play as a cleanup crew, right? That has to go back into different Raccoon City locations like the police department and stuff and basically clean up the mess, literally. And I think from a story point of view, that's a really, really nice idea. I have this on the PlayStation 3. I just always felt like the gameplay was arse. And unfortunately, with this footage, the game looks a lot better than what it actually is. So, yeah, a really good idea that failed to deliver, unfortunately, at least from my point of view. But hey, I mean, if you like Operation Raccoon City, let me know. I might have to give this another chance. Didn't do anything for me the first time. I think you can get this on Wii, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. Again, for such an old game, looks nice. 2012. What do we got now? We have Resident Evil 6. It's crazy to think that we got 2 Resident Evil games in the same year. A lot of people bandwagon and say that this is one of the worst mainline Resident Evil games ever made. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I am going to disagree. You get to do either an adventure as Leon, which is a bit more cinematic, a Chris adventure, which is action-based, Jake, which kind of mixes elements of Leon, Chris, and Ada with all sorts of gameplay elements, stealth, action, cinematics, things like that. And then the Ada, which is kind of like the more stealthy, puzzle-based side of things. Really loved the Leon cinematic experience. Felt like a movie, albeit I think there's way too many quick-time events. Chris was all right. Jake, I'm okay after only doing it once, to be honest. And Ada, the less we talk about that, the better. I just think Resident Evil 6 tried to do too many things and be too innovative. Sometimes less is more. I think if they somehow intertwined everyone into just like one experience, it probably would have been better received. And less quick-time events. But I quite enjoy playing Resident Evil 6, especially with Leon. And I do think the game's a little bit misunderstood. But that's just me. Let's see what we got now. Yeah, this is going towards the end game. The zombie combat was quite fun in Resident Evil 6 too, just popping their heads off with different weaponry. Now we got Revelations 2. Look, it's a nice looking game. You get to see classic characters again, I think, like Barry and Claire, if I'm not mistaken. But here's the thing with Revelations 2. I didn't like how it was very tag team based, and you kind of had to flip-flop between different characters from my memory of this to do different things. So there was kind of a bit of a disconnect for me. My friend who loves Resident Evil, Josh, has been like, no, Rick, you got to give this one another chance, try again. And I'm like, all right, maybe I will one day, but today is not that day. But let me know what you thought of Revelation 2, everybody. So I'll tell you what, they did get some good footage in this area, though. I love the sense of desperation here. I'm getting Resident Evil 4 vibes from this location, hey? What do we got now? Resident Evil 0 Remastered. I mean, I've already told you my thoughts on Resident Evil 0. And, I mean, they also remastered Resident Evil 1. So I don't know why they just put 0 in again and not 1. But anyway, Umbrella Corp. Probably, if you're including spin-offs and mainline games, probably one of the worst Resident Evil experiences ever made. Outside of Resiverse, okay? It's pretty horrible. And I don't even know what the story is for this, but the combat's not fun. It's kind of like an Umbrella action game, kind of trying to mimic, I suppose, Call of Duty with a twist. It sounds more fun than what it actually is. I picked this game up for $5. Not long after it came out, actually. Probably 2017, 2018. It was already reduced to $5. Didn't even think I got my money's worth. I just thought the whole game was soulless, missing something. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, let me know. Am I being harsh? I just played this for probably about 30 minutes, uninstalled it, and just forgot about it forever. I had absolutely no desire to get back to it. Now, this is Resident Evil getting back to its survival horror roots. The first time you play this, the Baker house is incredibly creepy and terrifying. The different characters in this, oh my gosh, the mother when you have to burn her hoo-ha, oh my gosh. And Zoe kind of helps you along the way to try and get out of the house. And oh my gosh, you got Mr. Baker here and all the DLC with different gameplay elements. And yeah, Resident Evil Gold 7 Biohazard, such a wonderful package. I'd recommend it to anybody. Now, the Resident Evil 2 remake, what a fantastic remake. This is when the remakes started coming out. And now we seem to get one every couple years. Or every year even, if you're lucky. I mean, it depends. I guess it's every couple years on average. This is a wonderful reimagining of the original Resident Evil 2, even though I still prefer to play the original. The puzzles in this are sophisticated without being too rough. The resolution of the characters are amazing. They look so lifelike. The zombies just instill that just feeling of dread, because between Mr. X and the zombies, there's just never a moment to rest and just take a deep breath. Which is the first time I kind of felt like that in a Resident Evil game since Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So the whole thing was a wonderful experience. And yeah, I don't have much else to add. DLC was good too. Lots of different game modes to play.
Don't shoot! Get down!
Prefer the second one, but I'd recommend the remake to anybody. And now we got a polarizing one coming up next, actually.
You alright?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks. You can thank me later, when we're safe.
So I just love how intense the opening part of this game is when you have to escape to the police station. They really got the cinematics in this on point. And what do we got now? So we got Resident Evil 3 Remake. This is the only Resident Evil that I was speedrunning for a small amount of time. But, you know, if you snooze, you lose. I don't remember how to do it anymore. But I was playing this like every day at one point. Probably the reason I liked it is the reason most people didn't like it. It's a shorter Resident Evil experience. And so at the price point, it was probably a little bit obnoxious. I like that they streamlined it compared to the original Resident Evil 3, because even though that's a better game, I'll admit it did suffer from pacing issues at time with puzzles and things like that. I loved how this was a bit more of an action cinematic, even though it still did have its puzzles. One pet peeve I had with this game is the clock tower was such a big area in the original Resident Evil 3. They only just let it make a small appearance in this game, which I feel like people may have felt cheated from that because they cut out a lot. But if you enjoy it for what it is, Resident Evil 3 is quite fun. I do feel like it was rushed because killing zombies isn't as satisfying as this as Resident Evil 2 Remake. There's not as many animations when it comes to dismembering zombies and popping off their heads and things like that, for example. Just felt like it was missing a little something. But a fun game to play, certainly nothing wrong with it, just not as good as some other entries on this list. It's lovely to see Jill again. And what do we got now? We have Resident Evil Village. This is the only one of the, also known as Resident Evil 8, and only one of the mainline games that I haven't finished yet. Hey, no excuses. I just find this one incredibly tough, to be honest. I just find this one very, very, very tough. So I passed the first area, which is the castle, and then the second area with like Rose and those weird freaking babies and shit. And then I got up to, I think, a little while on after that, and it just got to the point where I was getting so fatigued from the difficulty of this game that I stopped playing it. And that's on me. Hey, I raise my hand and I admit I'm not a great gamer. A lot of people do talk about a really unfair final boss fight in this as well. So I've got that to look forward to when I do finally finish this. Oh, look at this. This chick, this big bitch here. The lady herself, she a big simp dream. They like the big tartars, I think. Doesn't really do it for me, guys. But, I mean, each to their own, right? Lovely looking game. Lots of different monsters, boss fights. The villagers in this are also absolutely terrifying. It's cool to finalize Ethan's arc as well. I know he's one of the lesser popular characters in the Resident Evil franchise, but I like that they took a chance with someone different, because you can't keep everything Leon, Chris, Jill forever, right? So I like they at least tried to bring in a new protagonist. Why is Ethan lucky? And we got the lucky last one here, the Resident Evil 4 remake. And hey, my favoriteest Resident Evil of all time. I just love playing this game. I feel like it's not just a perfect Resident Evil game almost, but like a perfect game in general. There's problem solving it with the puzzles, awesome action, the storyline just flows, and even though some areas you can backtrack in a little bit, the sense of progression from going one area to another is totally satisfying. And if you can sit down and beat this in the 6 to 8 hour play session, depending what weapons you got, you just really feel just so fulfilled because you've just been on a grand old quest in so many different locations. And the La Plaga is a good storyline too, having to get rid of the parasite and stuff. That's also a nice plot line as well. Ashley here is the pain in the ass. At least she's not as much of a pain as what she was in the original. And half the time she's kidnapped or missing, so you don't have to put up with her too much anyway. She doesn't outstay her welcome, although she does tiptoe on that line a little bit. But yeah, this game is absolutely fantastic. These cultists are all incredibly creepy as well. Come, child, let me purify you. It's like, ugh. Stay away from me, you grub. But yeah, this is an absolutely awesome list, and we just want to thank Zagari Gaming. Please make sure you're giving him a sub. These lists take a long time to put together. Give us a sub and a like too, guys. Let us know what your favorite Resident Evil game is. We'll see you on the next video. Take care, everybody.